And what we're going to be looking at today is looking at writing a number as a product of its prime factors in index form. If we actually just break down the heading, first thing to notice is we've got this word product. From the work that we've already been doing at Key Stage 3, the word product means to multiply, things being multiplied together. Look at the word prime. What we're doing here is we're looking at prime numbers. Remember, a prime number is a number which only has two factors, two numbers that actually go into it. That's the number itself and obviously the number 1. The word index form, it means we just have to use powers to represent it. So let's have a look at this first number, then 84. Now before we break it down into a product of its prime factors in index form, let's just remind ourselves of the prime numbers. So I'm going to go with the first prime number. The first prime number that I can think of is 2. As a result, every other even number cannot be prime. So 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 cannot be prime because 2 goes into it. And remember, the definition of a prime number is it is only to have 2 factors. So the next prime number is 3, then 5, then 7. Then if we look at 8, that's an even number, that can't be prime. 9 cannot be prime because 3 can go into 9. For it to be prime, the only numbers that could go into it would be 1 and 9. Next prime number then is 11, then 13, 14 isn't, but it's even, 15, 5 times 3 stops it from being prime, 16 is even, so it's not. So the next prime number after that is 17. What we're now going to do is we're going to take this number 84 and we're going to write it as a product of its prime factors in index form. So how do we do it? Well, basically, we just think of any 2 numbers that you possibly can that go into 84. Any 2 numbers at all. So you're looking at literally 2 numbers that multiply together to make 84. A little tip, if the number is an even number to start with, obviously 2 times something will make 84. In this particular case, 2 times 42 makes 84. When you thought of any 2 numbers that multiply together to make that number, the original number, if one of those numbers is prime, just put a circle around it. Just stop. Because I cannot break that 2 down any further, and the reason I can't is because it's a prime number. 1 times 2 makes 2. So all I would do is put 1 times 2 there, and it's not going any further. And now look at the 42. I'm going to break that down now. I'm trying to find 2 numbers that multiply together to make 42. It's an even number again, so I could go for 2 times something. This particular case, 21. I'm stopping here, can't go any further with that 2 because it's a prime number. I'm now looking at 21. I'm thinking of any 2 numbers that multiply together to make 21 because 21 is not a prime number. So 7 times 3 makes 21. I'm stopping there because I know 7 is a prime number. I'm stopping there because I know 3 is a prime number. Put a circle around it. Now, what I'm now going to do is I'm going to take this number 84. I'm going to write it as a product. Product means to multiply. I'm left now with all prime numbers. So they are prime factors because 2, 2, 7 and 3 are factors of this 84. And all I've got to do is just put it in index form. In other words, because I've got a 2 and a 2, there's a tidier way of writing that. So I take my 84. I'm now going to write it as 2 times 2 times 7 times 3. And 2 times 2 can be written slightly tidier as 2 squared. It doesn't really make any difference what order you put the numbers. I tend to put them in order of getting larger. So that's 2 squared times 3 times 7. You can always check you're correct. Let's just do this. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 7 does make the 84. And you've written the 84 as a product of its prime factors in index form. We're now going to look at this one, 640. What we need to do is looking at 2 numbers again that multiply together to make 640. A little tip, if the number's quite a big number, if you can get two numbers close together to make 640, multiply together to make 640, what will happen is things break down a little bit quicker. You could use 2 because it's an even number, okay? But I'm going to use 64 times 10. I know neither of those numbers are prime, but what it allows me to do is get into that number and break it down fairly quickly. I'm not putting a circle around any of those. 64 is definitely not a prime number. 10 is definitely not a prime number. So I'm now going to go ahead with the 64 and I'm going to break the 64 down. I'm thinking there of 8 eighths making 64. Those 8s aren't prime, so I've got to go again. I can have 4 times 2, 4 times 2, and finally I've got a prime number. So I'm just going to put a circle around that 2 and a circle around that 2. I can break down now these two 4s with 2 times 2. Put 2 times 2 there and 2 times 2 there. Circle, 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 because they are all prime. Now I'm going all the way back up to my original 64 times 10 and I'm going to break the 10 down as it's not a prime number. What two numbers multiply together to make 10? 5 times 2. They are both prime, so I'm going to put circles around the 5 times 2. Now I'm ready to take this 640 and write it as a product of its prime factors in index form. Let's see how many 2's we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 2's. So that 640 can be written as 2 to the power of 7. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And here, remember, we've still got this 5 times 5. And we could just check that 2 to the power of 7 times 5 with a calculator does make 640, and it does.